All right. Hello, everyone again. Welcome to the IODA webinar on orthopedic diversity and inclusion in Africa. My name is Dr. Ananya K. I am a consultant orthopedic surgeon in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, and I am the African regional representative for the International Orthopedic Diversity Alliance. Welcome to this highly anticipated webinar. We have a great list of speakers, and we're very happy that everyone is able to join us. So we'll just start with a brief introduction of IODA. So the International Orthopaedic Diversity Alliance, it was established in 2019 with the aim of advancing the inclusion of women and underrepresented minorities in orthopedic surgery. So it's a worldwide collaboration of orthopedic surgeons and leaders, and the hope is to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in the industry. So we aim to provide a global platform that allows promotion of diversity in orthopedics through engagement, development of resources, and support diversity efforts in research. Membership is free for everyone in the healthcare, and there's also an opportunity for orthopedic associations to be signatories for the IODA Charter, and everything is available on our website. So I would love to welcome everyone again to this webinar. We have three outstanding speakers today. So we'll start with Dr. Ananya K Admasu, and I'll just have a short introduction about Ananya. And then without further ado, we'll proceed with her presentation. We'll have time to answer all of your questions. You'll be able to raise your hand and then ask questions, or you can write it down on the chat box. And for anyone who would like to attend the webinar with a language other than English, there is an option to get captions of various different languages in the Zoom setting. So you guys are welcome to use whatever language you are comfortable to attend this in. So let's proceed with our presentations. So Dr. Ananya Admasu is one of the few female orthopedic surgeons in Ethiopia. She has over 8 years of experience teaching and then leadership, and she has 5 different scientific publications. And she's the founder and former head of department of the orthopedics and traumatology department at the University of Gondar in Ethiopia, which is one of the oldest universities in the country. And she's also the founder of the Female Orthopedic Empowerment Program and at NA.com. She's a certified leader in global surgery. She also is trained as a faculty trainer and coach. She serves as an educator and a coach to many academic platforms in the African continent. And she's currently also working as a consultant for the Australian Doctors for Africa, which is a nonprofit organization working in different activities in the region. So without further delay, I move you guys to Dr. Ananya. Dr. Ananya, feel free to share your screen and you can start your speech.
Right, thank you so much, Base. All right, I hope you can see my screen. All right, good to go?
We can see it now. Yeah, it's good to go. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I just want to start by saying thank you for IODA for creating this platform and the work that you are trying to do both in Africa and worldwide. And special thanks to, of course, the team here who organized this webinar, and to my dear friend, Dr. Bezawit, that I have known for a while, and it's always a pleasure to collaborate with you. So thanks for that undeservedly fantastic introduction. So I think all the participants here, I can't see your faces, but it's fantastic to have you here. But you might be wondering why I'm the one speaking on this topic of mentorship and inclusivity and pertaining to the African setup. And I do not claim to be an expert on either one of these areas, but I have a very deep personal connection to the topic. So my story with mentorship started off when I was done with my medical training and choosing the surgical paths I was supposed to follow. And at the time, my older brother, who was in neurosurgery training, kind of became my first mentor unknowingly. and helped me guide me into joining the beautiful profession of orthopedics. And I know Dr. Beza and so many females here can relate to this. Once I joined the training, all the barrage of discouraging comments started coming in, right? Questioning my capabilities, suggesting I would rather join more female-friendly programs, and probing into personal life, or my personal life, right? So that at that time, I understood that I needed an ally. I needed somebody to guide me through this process, because at the time, I joined the only orthopedic training program in the entire country, and there was only one female orthopedic surgeon who was coming to the end of her career. So she was winding up, so I didn't get to see much of her. So there was really not much of a guidance in that sense. So I found support from Professor Brook, which Dr. Bezai knows. He is my former teacher and now a continued mentor and a phenomenal friend. And reflecting back on that experience, I often wonder how differently my path might have been without seeking that vital guidance at that crucial time. So that's why in this presentation, I want to advocate for the crucial role that mentorship will be playing in order to achieve an inclusive surgical environment. So what does inclusivity truly mean in our context? We're talking about equal opportunities, we're talking about representation, we're talking about equitable supports, and culturally sensitive mentorship. So equal opportunities, the reality of the world, unfortunately, does not give equal opportunities to everyone. But everybody deserves equal opportunities despite where they're from, the language they speak, the color of their skin, the gender, or their socioeconomic status. And that's what inclusivity really means. It goes beyond this artificially set boundaries. The other is representation. To see somebody who look like us, who have had similar background as we have, will give us the boost of confidence that we need to pursue the paths, the career that we are interested in. And an equitable support is quite crucial. And when we say equitable support, we know in the African context, two neighbors, one a little girl, another a little boy, who might dream of to become an orthopedic surgeon, will have different probabilities of making that dream come true for many reasons that we can all understand. So equitable support means both of these children need support to achieve their dreams, but the female needs more support, right? A more tailored support. And of course, mentorship is culturally sensitive, because you can, especially if you're lucky enough to find a mentor that understands your cultural context. I mean, in Africa, Africa is a huge continent, but even in each of our countries, we have tremendously different cultures and cultural backgrounds that our patient population comes from, that the physician or trainees come from. So all this factors into when we talk about inclusivity. So what are the existing gaps? We have limited access to opportunities, and this limited access kind of by default is created when we are on the African continent. Just because many platforms that have mentorship opportunities do not exist in the African continent. So, and we might not have stable internet even to access international opportunities. And the gender imbalance, of course, because of the cultural issues that we have, there is a significant gender imbalance in the orthopedic field. And this is not just particular to the African context, but it's across the world, it's very similar. Even if some of the numbers are coming up in the Western countries, there's still a huge gap between the gender, the male and female ratio of orthopedic surgeons. Resource constraints, we all know this. We do an Olympic level gymnastics every day to treat our patients, to be trained, right? So resource constraints, human resource, physical resource, financial resource, it's one too many to even discuss. So all these are gaps that exist that hinder the achievement of inclusivity. And most importantly, lack of role models. People who look like us, talk like us, think like us. We don't see them. They don't exist. If a surgeon or a medical doctor who works in rural Africa might never see an orthopedic surgeon, might never meet an orthopedic surgeon. So that lack of role model really affects the career path of many doctors. So how is mentorship the answer? Okay, and this is my argument. Mentorship creates guidance and support. Just like my mentor helped me navigate the system, my brother helped me navigate the system. Just like that, it creates guidance and support for young surgeons, medical doctors to develop their careers in orthopedics. It creates networking opportunities. Look at the fantastic people here. You would have never met these people if this networking opportunity didn't exist that IODA made come true. So mentorship helps you access people that you would otherwise never have access. Advocacy and sponsorship. The number of times my mentor has written letters, had made the introduction to help me walk through important doors and attend important meetings are countless. So mentors play a great role in helping young surgeons and medical doctors to make that relevant connection within the industry that they're in. And building in confidence and resilience, right? If somebody have walked the walk and they tell you, you know what, you can do it. It seems hard from the outside, but you can do it. It will boost your confidence. It will make you feel like I can do this as well. And it will also help you develop cultural competence, because we have patient-centered approach, right? Which I hope we all have patient-centered approach. And if we want to center our patients, we cannot ignore the importance of their cultural background, the importance of the cultural background in which our healthcare system functions. So mentorship gives you that advantage of understanding that environment, that context, and help you become a better surgeon and a better doctor as a whole. So how do we make it work? How do we make mentorship work for achieving inclusivity? So there are different types of mentorship programs. You can have structured mentorship program, which is the kind of program, the mentorship program that we run at Female Orthopedic Empowerment Program. It's a 6-month structured mentorship program. You can have access to diverse mentor pool on platforms such as IODA or AO Foundation and many more. You can have targeted mentorship initiatives that help address gaps in otherwise marginalized groups like women or rural surgeons. And we cannot ignore the utilization of technology, just like we're doing right now. Technology has helped us, and especially after COVID, realize that distance should not be a barrier. So you can have access to mentors across the ocean and reap from the benefit of having that connection and exposure and that network. And institutional support is essential and central to sustain inclusivity through mentorship. And the positive impact of investing in an inclusive mentorship are, I think, very obvious. But I want you to think about having an empowered and skilled young surgeons. Okay, if somebody is empowered, they won't wait for directions. We have empowered them to make them be able to be decision makers, independent thinkers, which is extremely crucial when we work in the environment that we all work in the African setup. It increases retention of talent. If we create that inclusive environment where a female African surgeon can develop her career paths, then we would stop the fleeing of our surgeons and our medical doctors across the ocean looking for better opportunities. It enhances diversity in leadership. We all understand the challenges we have at our hospital administration level, at the level of university administrations, where we have non-medical people in leadership positions, and the kind of challenge we would have to face trying to convince those people of the needs that we have to provide quality healthcare. So by helping develop the leadership skills and resilience in our orthopedic surgeons, we can achieve diversity in leadership, which will in turn create answers to many of the questions and challenges that we face daily. And of course, improved patient trust and access. In some of the cultures that we have, a female patient may not be one to be evaluated by a male doctor. So empowering women, empowering marginalized and otherwise disadvantaged group of physicians and orthopedic trainees will help us improve our patient care, because the patient will have connection and trust with that provider. So we need to champion inclusive mentorship. How do we do it? Senior surgeons, you got a mentor. Trust you me, you have something to give. You don't have to work for 20 years, 30 years. You don't have to have 40 pages of CV. You have something to offer. There's always something that you can teach the young generation. So mentor, 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 whether it's formal, whether it's informal, whether you're involved with a bigger platform, whether you're doing it individually, you have to get yourself to mentor the young generation. And for institutions must invest. Institutions must integrate mentorship programs both in their undergraduate and postgraduate trainings. And that's how we make a sustainable change towards achieving inclusivity. Policymakers obviously have to support, whether they're governmental, non-government stakeholders, different Ministry of Health and other governmental organizations should support institutions into helping make mentorship available. And of course, associations like the IODA and different professional associations should also encourage the existence of mentorship programs. And for young surgeons, I say seek. Seek and you shall find, right? So go find yourself a mentor. Create that environment for yourself. Trust me, it goes a long way, as I have benefited from it. So I'll leave you with that. For the young audience here, it's really on you to create that opportunity for yourself and make a long-lasting difference for the generation of medical doctors and orthopedic surgeons to come. Thank you. I just would briefly like to describe what I'm seeing, the picture you're looking at here. This is the first cohort of Female Orthopedic Empowerment Program mentees. You can see the lovely Dr. Bates at the right side of the picture, who was a mentee in 2024 in our program and have now graduated to become a mentor this year, which it brings so much joy to my heart to see women like Bates, who I've seen throughout training, just flourish into this amazing leader. And kudos and more power to you. And this is really what I think is the relevance of mentorship in helping build up the career of orthopedic surgeons. So if you like to, if you're interested in the Female Orthopedic Empowerment Program and you want to be involved in any form, you can email me on etadmin@allstocafric.org, or you can follow and link with me on LinkedIn at Ananya K Admasu. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ananya, for this incredible presentation. And I agree with everything you said, because for me, when I think of making orthopedics more diverse and inclusive and accessible, especially coming from the context of the continent of Africa, I believe showing the way, showing the opportunities, and then mentoring, guiding is critical because it's never a straightforward thing or it's never a straight line for a medical professional in Africa to go through all the hurdles and become an orthopedic surgeon or flourish in the, international platforms. So mentoring for me holds a very important role. And thank you for everything you've said. So just to remind some of the attendees that have joined us late, you guys are very welcome and you can attend this webinar in any language with the option to have captions of different languages if it is easier for you to attend this webinar in any language apart from English. And then you can also write down all your questions on the Q&A chat box. And at the end, we'll have time for an in-person Q&A as well. So maybe Ananya, if I can forward just one question from the attendees, and then you'll be able to address that, and we'll go to our next presenter. So Stewart Proper here asked a very critical question. So it says, what role, if any, should quota be used in selecting orthopedic trainees? Is there any disadvantage in giving one group an advantage over another group? So that's the question as I read it straight from the chat box. So if you can reflect on that, and then we'll go to the next speaker.
Yeah, so if I understand the question, should one group get more advantage over the other? That's the gist of it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I believe that's what he meant to ask, yeah.
Okay. Yes, well, fortunately or unfortunately, that's the reality of the world. People are advantaged in different ways, considering where they came from, or their socioeconomic background, or the language they speak, or literally their birthplace. So advantages are the thing that exist naturally, okay? But because of the way society is built, certain groups have a lack of advantages or disadvantages sometimes to accessing their careers, since we're talking about orthopedics, a career in orthopedics. So that's what we mentioned about equitable support. We're saying everybody deserves the support across the board, no questions asked. But we need to recognize that certain groups are at more disadvantage to achieving that career goal compared to the other groups, and giving a little bit more boost to that specific group. Okay. So that's what I meant. I hope that answers the question. I don't want to take too much time from the other presenter, so we'll circle back to it at the end.
Good, great. Thank you very much. So our next speaker is Dr. Marcella. She is an orthopedic and trauma surgery resident. She's originally from Sierra Leone, but she's currently in training in Nairobi, Kenya. She amazingly holds 3 master's degrees, including an MSc in Global Health and Development and Master of Surgery in Trauma and Orthopedics from the University of Edinburgh. She's deeply committed to advancing surgical equity in Africa, and she's focused on trauma, reconstruction, and humanitarian surgery in low-resource settings. She's a recipient of multiple international scholarships, including the Orthopaedic Trauma Association Humanitarian Scholar Awards and Humanitarian Surgery Fellowships with the Royal College of Surgeons of England. She has presented her research work in various international platforms and explores the intersection of surgical care and equity in multidisciplinary surgery. She's an active advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion. She has led and won awards on projects highlighting the cultural barriers faced by women in surgery in Africa. And she's a mentor to aspiring surgeons and a champion for sustainable, innovative, and inclusive surgery. So I suggest everyone tries and connects with Marcella on her platforms, because I have been impressed by what she's been able to do. So without further delay, Marcella, I'll just move to your screen. You'll be able to share your screen and start your speech whenever you can.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fezzo. That introduction is amazing. It doesn't quite sound like the way I see myself, but yeah, thank you so much for that. And it was really good to hear from Dr. Ananya. I feel like I can totally relate to all the things that she said. It's really amazing. Just to check, can you see my screen?
It's coming up. Yeah, we'll just give it a second.
And now, can you see it?
Not yet. I think
Um,
it's trying to load.
Let me try again. Just a sec, I'll just try that again. Can you see it?
It hasn't appeared yet.
Okay, I'm just gonna switch my video off for a second and see if that helps.
Yeah, we can try that, don't worry.
Now, can you see it?
Yes, we can see it. So you just need to make it a presentation mode, slide mode, and then
Is that visible to you?
yes, it is. Thank you. You can start.
Okay. I might just have to keep my video off because I think my internet is acting weird. But yeah. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. It's truly a privilege and an honor to be here with you today to speak about this topic. This is something that I am sort of really passionate about. I feel like it's such an important part of what we should aspire to do as younger surgeons and trainees, and what the probably the older surgeons should encourage as well. So I am really excited to talk about this. I feel like whenever we talk about diversity and equity in orthopedics, we're a patient in a very remote setting who has never seen an orthopedic surgeon. We're talking about a young girl somewhere who dreams of becoming a surgeon, but never has seen someone to look up to. I usually feel that it's easier to become what you see compared to what you don't see. And myself, coming from Sierra Leone, where there are no female orthopedic surgeons, and we have just 3 orthopedic surgeons in the entire country, I have also seen how difficult it can be when surgery is out of reach. And then because of that, I have also seen how coming together and working together is possible to fill in those gaps. So today, what I want to talk about quite briefly is how we're going to, or how we could explore regional collaboration so that we can build a more equitable, a more diverse orthopedic community in Africa. And we want to think about it as a collaboration that's going to move beyond just individual countries solving problems in isolation and moving towards a more shared and sustainable vision. So this is a heat map that I got from the IODA website. It basically shows the percentage of female orthopedic surgeons per country worldwide. Now, if we come down here to Africa, you can see how scarce those numbers are. Like, literally non-existent in some places, and in many of these African countries, female. So, and we see that there's a huge gap that needs to be filled, and in some other places we have so few orthopedic surgeons that you might get like years, then you just know that that's not near enough to improve access to these communities in rural places. And so this is why we talk about equity and diversity, because when we have diversity, is not just about numbers, it's also about what those numbers can enable. This is like a really cute photo that I found from the Women in Surgery Africa website that just depicts like a group of ortho surgeons, mostly women, coming together and working together. And so when we think about diversity, we think about how we can innovate better, how when you have a diverse team, you can understand the communities better, you can inspire other people, and then ultimately the reason we talk about all of this is also because we want to expand access and improve access to care for our patients. So what do we really mean when we say regional collaboration? It's not just about attending conferences or partnerships that basically exist on paper. It's about countries and institutions coming together and sharing expertise and resources, sharing data, opening up training opportunities, and just building that collective advocacy power. It's just recognizing that individually we can only do so much as individual countries. We can do way more when we come together and when we share our challenges and we share our solutions together. So how does collaboration improve equity and diversity? So first, it expands training opportunities, and then it really strengthens mentorship and amplifies advocacy, and ultimately, it's going to improve access to patient care. So in terms of expanding opportunities, so I'll myself as an example for this. Like I mentioned, I am from Sierra Leone, and when I decided to pursue a master's in orthopedics in Nairobi, it's because I knew that I don't have access to that at home. We don't have a local postgraduate training in orthopedics. And so if I wanted to become an orthopedic surgeon, I had to cross borders. And I am training here not because of a formal partnership between my university or my institution back home and the university here, but just because there is a training program that opens doors to trainees from the region. And it wasn't because of any formal agreement. It was just that openness, that shared training opportunity that is also a form of regional collaboration. So we realized that it doesn't always have to be on paper. It doesn't have to be very formal. It can also just be just openness to allowing international graduates to train and get exposed to training in your country, or just sharing faculty or sharing training standards, but just generally that cross-border accessibility. And without that, I feel like I wouldn't be here today. And I know that is not just something that I have benefited from. I know that also other trainees have benefited from various cross-border programs and training opportunities. And I have worked with, or at least know, organizations, the Harvard Global Orthopedics Collaborative. They do some training programs in Malawi. They try to support the training programs there. They get trainees from other parts of the region to go and just support the facility there in Malawi. Also the AO Alliance and COSEXA, they have like an agreement where they give scholarships to female trainees to pursue fellowships in orthopedics. So I know that all these things, all these organizations work towards sharing resources and improving or increasing expertise across the region. So if we think about the amount of access that we can expand by just coming together, I feel like it's really amazing. And then when we talk about mentorship, Dr. Ananya has talked a lot on this, so I wouldn't talk too much on it, but just to re-emphasize the point that collaborating really strengthens mentorship and amplifies advocacy. So like what IODA does, what the JIGS does, the AO Foundation, they all have created mentorship programs that push for inclusivity and diversity among orthopedic surgeons and trainees. So I feel like if you are on this call and you are a female trainee or you're a female surgeon in orthopedics, just seeing another woman lead in surgery in another country can really be a lifeline. Because, like what Dr. Ananya mentioned about all the microaggressions and the weird things that you can find in training and just being a woman in surgery. So just seeing someone else succeed is really something that you can hold on to and be inspired by. So just collaborating together across the region is going to reduce that feeling of isolation and build like a pipeline for future women surgeons. So when we come together, I feel it also has more weight. So then we can advocate for policies that support gender equity, for more investments in surgical systems, for more equitable distribution of resources. All of that comes to it. It has more power when we're together. Together, we can ensure that every voice is represented at the table, and it just gives so much more weight to everything rather than doing it in isolation. And then ultimately, what we really want to do is to improve patient access and patient care. So through collaborations, we can get outreach camps, we can get shared services, we can get cross-border telemedicine, like what Ohana One does. I don't know how many of you have come across Ohana One, but they've basically created this platform where I can have a mentor in a completely different country, but they can be observing me live in theater and giving instructions, giving support and all of that. And it's really, really amazing that we can talk about things like that. And also with what Sign does, I also don't know how many of you know Sign, but basically what Sign does is provide implants, orthopedic implants, free of charge to low resource settings. And because of this, we get surgeons across countries using these same implant sharing experiences when they come together and just generally learning from each other. Oops, sorry. And what's really beautiful about regional collaboration is that it's not just one strategy, it's basically the connector. It brings together all these things that we talk about. So through collaboration, we can enable mentorship networks, like we've said, we can scale up gender inclusion strategies, we can share adaptable innovation. So what has worked for me, I can share it with you, see if it works for you, since we have a similar setting. Then we amplify our voices together and just expand training across borders. So basically, collaboration sits at the center of all things DI. So whenever we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, it all comes together with just collaborating. Then we think about what really makes collaboration successful, because as we know, collaboration doesn't happen by accident. It takes a lot of intentionality. We find that a lot of things exist on paper, but not in real life. You'll find that if you're probably Google searching for something, it might exist on paper, but not in reality. So to make that exist in reality, we have to be really intentional. It takes shared goals. We have to talk about the things we want, have a clear vision of where we want this relationship to go, what we want to achieve from this. Then leadership buy-in and sustainable funding. We could talk a whole lot about sustainable funding and leadership buy-in when it comes to surgical services and all of that, but I wouldn't delve into all of that. I think Global Surgery Day is coming up, so for those who are interested, there are a lot of talks going on that we can delve into all of that bit, but also intentional inclusion of women and underrepresented groups from the start. So someone had asked a question about whether we think some groups can be at a disadvantage by being overly included. And like Dr. Ananya rightly said, some groups are already at an advantage. If you're a man applying into ortho just by being a man, you stand a better chance of getting that fellowship or that training post. And the other time I had an argument, well, not an argument, but a conversation with one of my colleagues, and he told me, you got that because you're a woman. I'm like, that's a very unfair thing to say, because do you know how many fellowships they give to men before they say, oh, this is for gender inclusion and what, and they give 1 spot or 2 spots to women. And so for our collaboration to be really successful, we have to be very intentional from the very beginning. It can't just be at the very end we're handing over 1 or 2 spots for diversity and inclusion just to have it on paper and say there is diversity and inclusion. So we have to be really intentional. Every time we talk about these things, we have to bring intentionality to the table, because otherwise we're going to just replicate the very inequities that we're really trying to dismantle. So it's not enough to collaborate if we're not going to break these barriers that we're pushing against. And so to end, I think what we should take home probably is that regional collaboration shouldn't just be a strategy. It shouldn't just be just for the sake of talking about it. It's about commitment. When you say you want to collaborate and include all groups, it's a commitment that we're making to say that no country should be left behind, no trainee or no surgeon should be left behind. And so this is a quote I found from the ex-president of Liberia, Dr. Helen Johnson Sirleaf, where she said, African solutions for African problems. We must take ownership of our development and stop relying on external solutions. And I feel like this is so useful, because sometimes the projects that come from high income settings are not always replicable or sustainable in our own context. So just collaborating within the region with people who have similar challenges, who have seen similar successes, is really, really important. And we can go so far on our own, but no country can completely close that gap on their own. But together, I think we can really do some amazing work and push orthopedics to different levels. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Marcella. It was an amazing speech. And we are really adamant about increasing regional and international collaborations to make diversity and inclusion a reality in the world. Because if you think about it, in the continent of Africa, we mostly share the same problems, the same hurdles, and also the same triumphs, maybe just in different fonts, but we're running through the same circle. And it's really important to share notes on how we bridge the gap in making orthopedic training and orthopedic care to patients and surgeons and medical experts in terms of the social bias, gender bias, economic constraints, and sharing notes among different stakeholders in the region is important. But also international collaborations are also very critical because they help detect undetected problems. It brings out problems that we haven't really noticed before. And they also bring in innovative solutions. And it's really important. It's really critical, the point you mentioned about, sharing innovations, because what works in Kenya and what works in Sierra Leone and what works in Ethiopia may not work in, a country in Europe or in the US or in Canada. But by sharing notes and understanding the solutions to different problems, we make orthopedics more accessible to everyone. So thank you very much. It's been incredible listening to your speech. And if we can have maybe a minute or two to answer a few questions, Marcella. We have one question from Christy Weber, who is our colleague from IODA. And she asked, do you find that women orthopedic surgeons in Africa are asked to do more jobs or roles in your departments at the risk of burning out? Or are they in a situation such that women are still working to be noticed in a positive, competent regard? What do you think about this?
I think the latter is actually truer. It's not that we're asked to do more than our male counterpart. It's just you sort of have to do more to earn the same level of respect as them, because we can go to the theater together. I might be even more skilled than them, but just them being males means everyone talks to them with a bit more respect. Sometimes nurses look at my juniors and ask them things and they don't know. And I'm like, I'm standing here, guys. Like, I'm just here. So I don't think it's really a situation of being asked to do more per se. It's just that situation of us having to work harder to prove ourselves. Like, you're always on the run. Like, someone else can't not do that and not be scolded for it or not be blacklisted for it. But you doing that means you go on a blacklist and they're going to say, oh, this is why women shouldn't do ortho. They're lazy, they're tired, they get sick, what. So you're pushing yourself through literally everything just to make sure that you do no wrong. Literally, you're allowed zero room for errors. So yeah, I think it's more of women trying to prove that we deserve to be here, that we have a right to be here as well, than being asked to do more than our male colleagues.
Interesting. If I can share like a quick note about how training as a female orthopedic resident goes where I was trained, because hearing what you guys had to go through during your training, I realized having someone who empowers and creates a platform where everyone with any kind of background and any kind of diversity can thrive actually creates a very comfortable environment, because our training is one prime example. Because where I'm trained, of course, it's in Africa, it's in the same, the same background, in the same culture and economic constraints, but only because the leaders in our training program are very much advocates of empowering everyone, regardless of our background. Where I was trained, whether you're a woman trainee or a man trainee, they created this subtle but incredible balance that says, okay, Beza is the resident here, so she can do everything she's supposed to do. And as long as she's here prepared and ready to do her job, let her do it. But there was also a subtle support where the main colleagues or the main trainees provide some sort of support without actually having a demeaning kind of connotation. So I think having a more diversity attuned leaders is very important, because it balances out the burden of having to prove oneself just because of your gender or your background. So I think it's really interesting how different leaderships can bring about different experiences. But thank you very much, Marcella. So I think we can go for our last speaker, and then we'll save the rest of the questions to the end of the speech. So our last speaker is Dr. Daniel Joseph. So Dr. Daniel Yosef is an orthopedic surgeon. He's currently practicing at Arusha Lutheran Medical Center in Arusha, Tanzania. He earned his medical degree from Kilimanjaro Christian Medical University College, and he went to the Academy of Christian Service, Kijabe Hospital in Kenya. He sees a wide variety of cases across all subspecialties. He's interested in trauma, adult construction, and sports-related injuries, and he strongly believes in compassionate patient-centered care. Apart from his regular surgical practice, he's actively involved in collaborative initiatives, mentorships, and medical outreach programs in Tanzania and beyond. Dr. Daniel, we're happy to have you, and please share your screen and you can start your speech whenever you're ready.
Can you see my screen?
Not yet, but let's give it a second, I guess.
Okay. All right. Now you can see it, I hope.
Yes. Great.
All right.
Carry on, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Bezawit. Thank you for your kind introduction. It's really a great pleasure to be among this wonderful group of panelists. I'm not an expert in diversity and inclusion by any means. When Dr. Bezawit reached out to me for a possibility of doing a presentation, I was first thought it was what an honor, but then is who am I to be able to talk to this wonderful platform? But the reason why I thought it was important, in few months ago, we had a WOGO mission trip, which is a all women surgeons group, all women surgeons led orthopedic group that came and did amazing and wonderful joint replacement surgery to 43 lucky patients. And the way they handled the mission and the way they engaged with our local teams and the patient really, really sparked an interest and kind of a curiosity of how outreach programs like those can make a difference in enhancing our diversity and inclusion, especially in orthopedic surgery, and even the way we deliver our services, and even those who come to receive our services. So today, my aim is to able to share a bit of how outreach can support inclusion in orthopedics and share lessons that I got from WOGO mission trip and other mission trips, and encourage more intentional and empowering outreach program, because I think it's really, really important when people, the local teams that we work with, as Dr. Ananya and Dr. Marcella has said, have elaborated before, that when we see people that reflect us, and then when we share different challenges, and then when we engage in these opportunities, then more people will have a more inclusive and diverse group of orthopedic surgery, and which will improve our delivery of care and all the above. So Dr. Nanya has briefly talked about this, and Dr. Maricela has already elaborated about this, and I don't need to speak further about it. Africa is a richly diverse continent with more than 3,000 ethnic groups, 2,000 languages, tribes, religions, structures, and this diversity ultimately changes the way we design and operate our health system, even the way we train and the expectation. And when it comes even to customs and norms that we have, can affect the way we do, even the way we select residents, the way we select medical students, the way the patient choose to be treated by a specific doctor. I'm sure you wonderful women have come instances where there's lack of trust when a male older patient comes to you and you tell them I'm the surgeon, and they're a bit hesitant to be treated by you. So diversity is not always reflected in our workforce. So inclusion is what which will bring diversity across. There's subtle hidden costs to exclusion. Most of the time, it's usually quiet and unintentional based on where we live and how our society operate, and sometimes we find it very deeply embedded in our structures, policies, and everyday interaction. Now, when individuals see people like themselves in leadership and mentorship role, it silently tells them that they can belong there. Talented rural clinicians, as you said, sometimes can go unnoticed due to lack of exposure. Sometimes women are directly discouraged, as Dr. Ananya has said. She was discouraged from being an orthopedic surgeon, but we wouldn't have the opportunity to have you, wonderful surgeon, working for Africa community if it wasn't the persistence and the mentorship that you got. Sometimes we have different languages and cultural barriers that can make inclusion very unwelcoming, unwelcoming, and which can limit collaboration and engagement, and trying to have a diverse a diverse group of orthopedic surgeons. Sometimes the language barrier can make it even more hard to be included because of disconnect in communication, and the quality of delivery of that kind of support can be affected. So even though diversity is one of our African strengths, it's not always reflected by the way we conduct our day-to-day care of our patients. So what does outreach can do? So outreach can disrupt exclusion pattern, especially starting from challenging the people who give the delivery. Like I said, sometimes we expected orthopedic surgery across the globe is male dominated, but seeing the group of women that come and they deliver the service passionately, effectively, with very high quality and good service, with good outcomes, can break those long-standing barriers that this can only be done by a certain group of people. Also, when outreach shows, it demonstrates new approaches. Now, this comes to further than just the superficial, where you have gender, skin, and ethnicity, skin color and ethnicity, but also there's approaches and technique and skill transfer, which Marcella read about, the collaborative part of outreach. The more they are exposed to surgeries that are not usually common or not usually performed or need income that is not usually accessible to our community, can open doors to many, can inspire many to be able to get involved in such surgeries. As you said, includes mentorship and collaboration. You've already talked about this more, so I'll just keep this point. And outreach usually it's just not involves rather than just visiting, but involves overrides. It gives local providers growing skills, confidence, and authority, and it builds leaders that can later become the initiators of programs that can enhance inclusivity and diversity in orthopedic surgery. So I'll share a little bit of what inspired when this group of women came. They came 3 months ago in my hospital, and I can tell you the patients were very surprised when they were told all the doctors were women. Some of them were hesitant. I know a few who refused surgery, which was very unfortunate. But the way they conducted the mission with such humility, such professionalism, and the collaboration they made left a deep impression in our community. And in a very short time, it has sparked interest in many female health workers who I see day to day and heard about the program and can increase their interest in orthopedic surgery. So the lessons that I got is that inclusion is most powerful when it's actually experienced, when the local teams and the community actually see how this group of people operate and that it can actually work, that can bring about initiatives that will change the narrative and provide more inclusion and more diversity and more openness in including the excluded groups. So missions of WOGO serve like an inspiration to the healthcare team. So as I said, so the group of the local teams, the doctors, the interns, the nurses that were able to see this group of women work, because it wasn't just about the doctors, it was the theater staff, it was the physiotherapist, it was the nursing staff that were dealing they were interacting with patients one-to-one, can can create a spark for systemic change, especially in orthopedic surgery, and can increase the interest of these marginalized groups that usually we don't get involved in orthopedic surgery, especially in our settings, to have an interest and a curiosity and actually the will to pursue what was initially deemed impossible. The hospital community also, and hospital and the local community also sees leadership. Community leadership sees the potential in groups that were initially marginalized. When they see this group of women in different outreach programs or group of surgeries that can be performed, or the way they do the modes of operation that these outreach groups can actually inspire, and they can shift the mindset of our local leadership, even hospital leadership, into supporting more inclusivity in providing these opportunities. So as a reflection, outreach programs can create a ripple effect, towards creating more inclusivity to people, to the person to things that seem out of reach usually. So teams like WOGO, who are equipped, collaborative, and culturally aware, don't just bring tools. So they bring access, training, and changes narrative of high-level surgical care, and which seems reserved sometimes and inaccessible to a low resource setting, like where we have most places in Africa, and can bring a window to create a more inclusive and more diverse, even in surgical care. So another thing that I learned is that inclusion has to be co-created. The collaborative process in outreach program has to be co-created for inclusivity to be effective. The way we work with the teams that we go to in the rural areas, if it is, and the hospital setting like we are, but not able to perform certain specialties and surgeries, those instances has to be co-created for it to be effective in impacting the inclusion and diversity. So initiatives have to be made. Initiatives have to be created so that with a local team, so to have inclusivity as a measure and as an outcome as well of those outreach programs. And then empowering others changes how we see them, how especially the local teams and how the medical students see themselves, and they can also be of impact as well. The team that came in, the female surgeons who were top of their fields, did amazing. Dr. Bezawit was there, and that actually created an inspiration and to those who were onlookers, even to the parents who some of them said, I want my daughter to be like them. That was inspirational. And this is the effect that it can have. So the benefits are not just limited to the hospital setting as well. It also trickles down to the community at large. You find there will be a boosted trust in health system, which can transform community relationship, especially with modern medicine. Our countries, speaking personally of Tanzania, country is very huge with more than 120 tribes. And there is a tradition to trust traditional bone setters and traditional medicine. And at some part, even though it's now decreasing as the awareness becomes more prominent, is that there's lack of trust with the modern medicine, especially for us, example, with the Maasai group. Sometimes there's lack of trust with the modern medicine. So outreach programs like this can help boost the trust in health systems, in orthopedic surgery, and can increase the diversity in the patients we treat. The youth see relatable role models, those who even didn't think it was possible. The women who are expected to stay at home in the villages, they see role models who actually can do it all. The amazing women who do surgeries, and some in their skin color, they also feel like it's also possible. So it becomes inspirational. The cultural respect deepens engagement. People are willing to participate when they see the care deliveries and success rates. They also feel like it's something they can encourage and even foster more participation with future outreach, and that will bring more inclusion and more diversity in participation, both in patients and local communities. And this ultimately results in better outcomes, and in better outcomes in patient, and when the care reflects lived experiences. So our responsibility moving forward is to actually have inclusion as a measure and not just an output. It should not be just by the way this group of women came and they did what they did and they left, but it should be a goal that we aim to achieve, that whatever the outreach programs, one of the goals and objectives is to improve inclusion and diversity and impact that into the community they serve. Also, embed mentorship and mentorship in both the local doctors and the local leadership in fostering these kind of outreaches. I trained in Kijabe, and there were where there's a QRC hospital, and they do a really good job in outreaching and reaching to the community leadership and community health workers to be able to involve them in these programs. And that has led to a better outcome and actually patient outcome, as some of the children that attend this hospital come from very far, many kilometers. So regular follow-up are not possible. And so when there's a mentorship and training of the local leadership aspect of it into the outreach programs, this can improve the overall patient outcome. Also, we should aim to fund post-mission development. What matters after the outreach program is important. It should be a continual process. And as it goes, it will build on the block. It will be as a building block towards a better inclusivity and diversity in orthopedic surgery. The more we plan ahead, and when we think ahead of how can this continue and what are the steps after, it's very important in continuity and having that diverse orthopedic surgery group in Africa. And then don't just leave those who uplift. We should also honor them and uplift those who will uplift others. And this comes with what Dr. Ananya said, the policy changes and the funding and to these groups and the donation to these groups. They have to feel supported and they have to have the resources to continue this work. And by this, we'll ensure more programs like this also rise up and be able to play a part in building a better future. So closing reflection is that outreach doesn't just heal, it brings belonging, and it opens doors, raises voices, and reshapes systems. So when we empower these health workers one at a time, and including ourselves as orthopedic surgeons, it reshapes our system, it will shape how we do things, and it will build a better future for us all. Thank you. That's it.
Great, amazing, Daniel. It's incredible hearing your speech. For us in IODA, when we're thinking about making orthopedics more inclusive and diverse, we're thinking in terms of, access to trainings, access to networking opportunities, access to innovative practices and access to quality healthcare. And what Daniel mentioned earlier about majority of our population in Africa having a hard time believing, orthopedic surgery could solve their problems, or women surgeons or people from the minority groups can solve their healthcare problems, is important to be addressed as well. And we're also thinking of opportunities for career advancements. And it was also amazing listening to you talk about partnerships and collaborations having to be co-created, because we strongly believe partnerships and mentorship should be a two-way road. It has to be about, or we have to aim getting good experiences and sharing obstacles both ways. And especially living in a continent where there is an insane number of diverse cultures, it of course poses more steps to pass, more hurdles to pass, but it also brings about a wealth of opportunities. And it's really amazing listening to the reflections of our speakers. So thank you very much. I think we can now proceed to answering some of the questions, or all of the questions we have here at the Q&A. I think we can start with Tgiat Lai. Says here, as a female orthopedic trainee in Africa, what practical steps can I take to overcome gender bias and promote inclusion in my workplace? I think Marcella would be the best fit to answer this question. Can you tell us what you believe is important here?
I don't know. I feel like every time someone asks me this, I find myself scrambling. Wait, what is the right thing to say? In my experience, personally, I find that just being my best self works. I don't have to shrink myself. I don't have to pretend to be someone else. I just own who I am. I don't have to be less feminine. I am a girl. I don't have to try to be a boy to fit into the boys' club. So for most parts, I'll just say, be your best self in terms of learning, in terms of gaining the skills that you can get, in terms of seeking opportunities for mentorship, for just the continuous learning process, but then also just be who you are as a woman. You don't have to feel like you have to shrink yourself, be less glossy, be less a Barbie girl, be less of anything that you are just to fit in. Just be who you are, be your best for your patients, have good work ethics, just be a good doctor, and then be who you are as a person. I feel like that is what has worked for me. I have had colleagues picking fights all the time about someone calling them a nurse, but usually those fights don't really go anywhere. So I realized just own who you are, own your space. If you feel like you have to respond to something, you could respond to it. You don't have to shy away from confrontations, but don't go actively looking for them, trying to prove a point. That's what I'll say. Maybe Dr. Ananya, in your experience, since you've been doing this longer than me, if you have some tips that I can also learn from.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. And I think what we don't realize, or we realize a bit late, is how much advantage that we have as women in this field, in the medical world, because it is something close to our nature. Caring, nurturing, being empathetic, all these qualities come natural to us. And we need to use that to our advantage. And we're fantastic team members. We're great in collaborating in teams, right? Because we have less ego. Well, I'm gonna offend some of my male colleagues, apologies, but that helps us great collaborators. And we have this intuitive nature that makes us foresee challenges, identify problems well ahead of time, and plan for them, because that's in our nature. That's what we have to be caretakers of a life that's completely dependent on us, right? So it translates into this work environment. And I think the minute we realize that and start utilizing that, makes us one of the most amazing leaders in our fields. And the fact that we're not aggressive by nature, we're more soft, it will make people that we interact with be more respondent. If you talk to somebody with aggression, do you think they will ever respond? No, they will be defensive about things. But we have to use all these feminine qualities, female qualities that we have, and use it to create a harmony within our work environment. And I think that's what we need to embrace and walk into as we practice.
Totally agree. I think being a woman in surgery is a superpower. Just smile, be happy, be you. You realize that people are nicer to you just because you have a nice demeanor. And yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. I think she'll find this tips really helpful. And another question from Deborah Estwood. Great talks. Are the speakers confident that change is happening and at a suitable speed? Let's start with Daniel. What do you think about the speed of orthopedics being more diverse and inclusive in our continent? Or you think we should do much better now?
I think personally, I think there's positive changes you can see, especially how diverse we're improving, more trainees are coming along, more delivery to our communities. It's still, speaking personally on my country, our services are still more centered in the urban areas and lacking in the rural areas. But we are glad even our government, in collaboration with medical societies, we are forming ways. And currently we have a program where a group of surgeons always is taking to a rural hospital, like a more remote hospital. Every week you're selected in a team and then you go and you operate. And I think that kind of bridges the gap and bridges the service delivery. In terms of inclusivity in orthopedic, the speed is not what we would like. I think at this moment in time in the world we live in, it should be much better than it is. But we are heading there. Our preconceived notions and perceptions about women, especially in Africa, it's always about women versus men. It's changing slowly, and I'm glad more women are more included, especially in orthopedic surgery. But it's getting there. I'm sure as digital age improves, it will be even more. But we are getting there.
Great. Ananya, Marcella, you have points to add?
I don't know, I feel like the fact that we're having this conversation means change is happening. I feel like 20 years ago, these conversations were not happening. So just having this safe space to talk about our challenges, to talk about our thoughts, what we feel like is the way forward means change is happening. It might not be at the pace that we like, because humans being humans, we like things to happen at a very click my finger kind of pace. But all these things that we've talked about today, all these initiatives, all these ideas, all this progress that we've made, you sharing in your story that you didn't have such a challenge in residency means that things are actually changing. That is not a privilege people who trained 25 years ago had. So you having to see that you trained in like a really nice, cool, supportive, mentoring, nurturing kind of environment means that change is happening. I think it is. We just have to keep pushing, keep talking about it, keep being intentional about it, and be patient as well about it. And in a few years, probably 5-10 years down the line, things would have changed quite significantly, I believe.
Amazing. Ananya, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. We have to keep in mind, this is not a sprint, this is a marathon. Okay, so we have to keep the pace. We just have to keep doing a little bit every day to achieve that goal. Instead of seeing this big boom and change immediately. And in that process, I also want to reflect that on this is not women's issue. This is everybody's issue. That's why we need to have male allies. Because tomorrow your daughter will want to become an orthopedic surgeon. And I want you to ask yourself, is this the environment you want your daughter to work in? So that's why men allies are extremely crucial in realizing this change and sustaining this change. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention to men, because I don't want it to sound like no, men are bad, men did this to us, but no, it's not. It's just, it's the reality. We're just talking about reality. Numbers don't lie, the numbers are there, but we also know that we need change. So I just wanted to add that.
Perfect. I think Deborah was raising her hand. If you wanna. Oh yeah. I think Deborah, you can unmute yourself and
Yes, no, it was an accident, to be honest, Bezwitz. So that's fine. I was just going to say I was aiming to congratulate the speakers, but that's all I was going to say.
Great, brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you. And another question from Omar Salim, orthopedic surgeon working in Egypt and a member of RCSENG, was asking about how, so it says orthopedic surgery often involves long hours, night shifts, and emergencies, which can conflict with societal expectations around marriage, childbearing, and caregiving responsibilities for women. So how they can manage this, says just for clarification, thanks. So Ananya, would you be interested to say something about this, your reflections on this issue?
Yes, very much so, Bez. Thank you. So this is a legit question, okay? And when we talk about inclusivity, specifically pertaining to gender, we're not ignoring the reality of the world or life, okay? That's why mentorship is extremely important, because as an orthopedic surgeon and a female orthopedic surgeon, as a mother, as a wife, I can advise my mentee as to how to explore those waters, okay? How to create that work-life, not balance, I don't like that word, but more like work-life compromise, okay? Because we have to be realistic. I'm a very realistic person, so I'm sorry. But this is why mentorship is very important. And all my mentees and my mentorship program, I say to them, at the end of this program, whether you join orthopedics or not, my job here is done, because I have given you a realistic expectation of what it is to be an orthopedic surgeon. And as a woman, if you see yourself in that, then more power to you, continue your career in orthopedics. But if you realize, okay, this is too much, this is not the priority, this does not align with the priorities of my life, then follow a different path, discover different paths for yourself. But that's why mentorship, that one-to-one relationship, mentorship is not technical like coaching. It's more soft, it's more relational, it's more personal. And that is the advantage of mentorship for so many women to even see beforehand if they can and are ready to take on such a huge burden that would affect their lives.
Amazing, Ananya. Thank you very much. Bobo Tombeni, I'm very sorry if I butchered your name, says here, hi all, thank you so much for today's webinar. It has been most inspiring. I'm currently training in orthopedic surgery in South Africa and has been my passion since medical school. I wanted to ask if you could go back to first year registrar time, what would you tell yourself and what would you hold on to just to make it to the end and make it work? I'm battling with imposter syndrome and just needing some motivation to make it through. Oh, brilliant. Marcella, want to take this?
I almost knew you were going to throw that at me. Yeah. Hi, Bobo. I know Bobo. We worked on a paper together some time ago. I am still in residency, so I still need to psych myself up every now and then because life be lifing sometimes. I don't know. I'll say some of the things that we've just talked about. Don't shrink yourself. Don't disappear into who you are not, just trying to fit in. into the crowd, trying to please everyone, trying to be everyone's favorite person. I usually say you're not everyone's cup of tea, so it's fine. Just be good at what you do. Just own all of it. I don't think there's any one thing to keep you inspired every single day of residency. Trust me, I have not found it. Sometimes I just get up and go to work because I have to go to work. It's not because I'm psyched. It's just, okay, what gotta be done today? But then on other days, I just tell myself, it's okay. I deserve to be here. I know these things. I'm learning. I'm making progress. I'll say don't measure your progress against someone else's, because it's also just going to hinder or just make you feel bad. Some healthy competition is good, but you're on your own journey. You know how far you've come. You know the things that you've learned. So set benchmarks for yourself and then measure yourself against those benchmarks. Hold yourself accountable to those things. Don't feel like, oh, this person can do all those things. They probably could, because maybe they graduated 10 years ago and they're just starting residency now, but they come with a whole bunch of experience. So set your own goals, your own targets, work towards them, and just show up every day. And if you need to take some time off, I'm just going to throw that in there, take that time off. Don't let yourself get totally burnt out trying to prove that I am strong enough, I am a good resident, I am a hard worker. If you need a holiday, take a holiday. If you need a day off because you don't feel well, take that day off, because you know what will happen if you're sick or you die. Life goes on anyway. The hospital runs, things function, so take care of yourself, just as much as you take care of your patient. If your patient comes to you with a severe back pain, you will tell them, I'll give you an excuse duty for 5 days. Go home and rest, lay down, elevate your legs, take painkillers, what. So sometimes be a patient and just, I don't know, be you. Bez, do you have something to add, saying that you were also a resident not too long ago?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, being a trainee, but on top of that, being an orthopedic trainee for that long time is just about learning how to trade water when you're lost at sea and you need to, do the best you can with the utmost efficiency without dying at the end. So this analogy works for you trying to swim in the ocean, but it works the same way in residency as well. So there's, I don't think there's any cure for the imposter syndrome, honestly, whether you're resident, whether you're a young consultant or, a seasoned surgeon, it happens. And one of my great mentors, Dr. Graham Forward, who's also the head of Australian Doctors for Africa, used to say a worried surgeon is a good surgeon, right? So whenever you're doubting about your ability to do something, it means you're worried that something might be required of you to bring about the best healthcare for your patients. So it's okay to be worried. It's okay to doubt yourself every now and then. But as long as you start seeking guidance, as long as you start asking questions and then doing the job and, being present and working on your skills and everything that's required of you, it's okay. At the end of the day, it's a long journey. And like Ananya said, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And you're going to continue learning even after you're done with your training. So if I could go back to my first year of training, I would still do the same things I did. And I'm on board with what Marcella said. If you need a break, take the break, do your thing, work on yourself, because as long as you're burnt out and you're not efficient, you won't be able to deliver the best care for your patients.
Yeah. No, I'll come as soon as I can. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Yeah, so another question from Mark Morney says, what do you do when you identify potential talent in a resident who you think may be ideal for orthopedic training? I think it's talking about, identifying a great talent from maybe a medical school who you think is going to be a good orthopedics trainee or resident. What do you think should be done? How could we uplift them and mentor them into being, or joining the orthopedic program? Daniel, what do you think? Can we pick your brain on this? Daniel, I think you have to unmute yourself. Great.
That's a great question. If I get it right, is how I identify talent and how I encourage them. Is that
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
main point? Yeah. I mean, I always encourage my trainees, medical students who are visiting, interns. We have interns and residents who are still aspiring to go to further lengths. That one is always do what you like, and you can always see the interests. Usually I try to involve them as much as possible. I think everyone can be orthopedic surgeon. I'm a testimony of someone who wasn't actually interested in orthopedic surgeon until I got involved in orthopedics, and I was interested in other kind of surgeries. And then I was luckily, I guess by luck, by fate, attached to an orthopedic surgeon. I was like, oh, this is great. And that's how I became, my interest grew from orthopedic surgery. So it's just involving them initially, just making sure they are fully exposed and fully engaged. And how I usually encourage them is just by one, do what you like, to get them involved, even if it's suturing, even if it's holding the drill and drilling the last cortex, the farthest cortex, or things like that, can spark interest. And if they want, I always try to provide as much support as I can, where to train, what the best modes of how you can become good at surgery. I agree with Dr. Marcella that setting goals is very important. Know your goals in residency. What am I trying to achieve? And in my residency, which was 5 years long at Kijabe, I was advised by one of my mentors is that have goals for each year or for each session. It's like, I'm attached to this surgeon for 3 months. What do I want to learn? What do I want to get out of it? Because sometimes it can be overwhelming. You can't come into the first year, you're attached to a spine surgeon and wanting to do pedicle screws. That's almost, they won't let you, but you should have realistic goals and always always be involved. The more you be involved, the better you can learn your interest and become good at it. Yeah.
Great, amazing. And we have an amazing participant here, Dr. Linda Suleiman. The reason me and Dr. Daniel have met in Arusha, she's the lead surgeon for WOGO. And she asked, how do you respect the cultural differences around gender and roles versus promoting women in ortho? A traditionally viewed career by family, and anyone from the panel of speakers can reflect on this. And Linda, if you want to voice your question in person, would be very happy to have you. We can unmute you if you're interested. But Marcella, Daniel, Ananya, you can go ahead and reflect on this.
Yeah, it's great to have Dr. Linda here. Really an inspiring woman. And I think it would only be fair to give her like a few minutes to talk, because I think there's a lot we can learn from her. Good to see you here, Dr. Suleiman. And yeah, that's why we need mentorship, and culturally sensitive mentorship, right? I sound like a broken record, apologies, but I really, really, really believe that mentorship is the way, because if Baze comes and asks me about being a woman in the orthopedic field, she can relate to my advice more than, for example, say somebody from the UK, because the cultural context is just not, I mean, completely different in certain areas, especially. So that's why you need that person that you can go to that understand your context, whether it's cultural, whether it's the healthcare system, because when we say cultural, I think we're talking about the overall culture of the society, not just the work culture, the institutional culture, right? There are different cultures that we have to walk through every day. So finding that person who has went through those things in your setting, somebody with similar background, is the key to really find ways to achieve success in your work environment and in your setup, really. And I wanted to add on Daniel what he was saying about responding to the previous question, and I think collaboration is extremely important and valuable, but like you said, we have to direct collaboration the way we want it. And also when we say, how do you identify somebody who would fit into orthopedics, I don't think our job is to identify. I think our job as senior surgeons is to help them formulate the right question to get to the right answer. So that's just our job. It's just like research, right? You gotta formulate the right question in order to get the right answer at the end. So it's the same thing that translates into our practice. Just help them formulate the right questions as to what they want out of life, what they want out of their career, what they're willing to compromise and sacrifice. So all these things. So that's really our role as mentors and seniors when it comes to helping them identify their own path. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda, do you want to say something? Because
Yeah,
I see your hand.
No, I just wanted to thank the entire panel. Really robust discussion. I think it's also difficult, I think, as mentors, there's only so many mentors and so many mentees. And so really making sure that the mentors in this group are also feeling that the entire burden of diversifying orthopedics can't just be on the Black, brown, and female faces. And so the thing I try to promote, that this is a shared responsibility within our specialty, within our organization. And it's my residents, whether they're man, woman, Black, white, whoever that you are, like this is a shared mission, because if we aren't looking like our patients, we're not doing better care. And that's what it eventually comes down to. But I want to I'd love to see all the faces on here. This is a phenomenal panel, and great to see many friends. Hope to get back to the continent soon.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank you.
much, Lynn. Another question from Stuart Proper. What do each of the wonderful faculty believe is the greatest barrier to becoming an orthopedic surgeon, and what can be done to remove the barriers? Great question. Daniel, what do you think?
In my country, it's training opportunity. I think that's one of the greatest barrier that we currently have. We have very few centers that actually train orthopedic surgery, and many people who currently are willing to do orthopedic surgery. So getting access to proper training, having an opportunity to go train orthopedic is currently challenge. I'm sure there's other places with even greater challenge than we are, but currently that is the challenge, just having that proper training. You'll find universities with 20 odd residents and very few consultants and very theater, like maybe 1 or 2 theater rooms. And that's not realistic, but that's what we have to deal with, and that's what we have to do so that we train these guys and do the best we can. And even though I don't like saying it, and hope for the best. So proper training is the greatest barrier at the moment, but I'm sure more opportunity will come later.
I very much agree with that. Ananya, what do you think?
Yeah, there are so many barriers, if we're being honest. I think, first of all, we have to set personal goals that have been mentioned by my co-panelists. Personal goals are very important, and as long as your personal goals is to become an orthopedic surgeon, I think you'll find it within you to come up with creative solutions to those barriers. Because sometimes you might not find that role model. Sometimes you might not find that mentor. But you have a brain capacity that can find and create solutions. So I think don't just put the power of guidance in other people's hands. It's within you. We have it in us. I know that for sure because I had to look inside and find creative ways to deal with barriers. For example, after I finished my orthopedic training and went back to University of Gondar, which is one of the oldest and largest universities in my country, I was the only female. There was no orthopedic department, so there was just a general surgery department. And within that department, I was the only female, the only orthopedic surgeon, and the youngest of all. And all the people in that department were my teachers. So now I'm coming in guns blazing, energetic, freshly graduated. I'm like, we can do this. And they said, no.
Yeah, right. I'll come as soon as I can. Yeah.
So it was a reality check. I had to realize that, oh, okay, so not everybody have the same vision that I have. So I had to find a way to instill that vision, how we need to change the orthopedic service and what their roles can be and what my role can be. And I had to include the nurses. I'm new to the nurses. The nurses know my teachers. They have attended their children's birthday parties, and I'm just a newbie. So I had to establish a new rapport and everything, but you'll come to realize that there is so much potential within you, and you can find different ways to break these barriers, and just don't put everything in somebody else's hand and expect solutions from the outside as well.
Thank you very much, Ananya. That is a very good take. I think we've answered all the questions from the chat box. So I think if our panelists can share with us their maybe email addresses or LinkedIn profiles or any other website our participants can reach them on. It will be great for the young surgeons and the trainees to network with the panelists. So if you guys have any address that you want to share with me, I know Ananya have sent hers, so I'll share it with the participants. But Daniel and Marcella, if you have any address, you can share it with me and I'll share it with everyone. So if anyone has any last minute questions, would be happy to answer them all. Otherwise, thank you very much for all the great discussions and insightful takes on this important issue. So we are a strong advocate for having innovative solutions, shared responsibilities, and seeking opportunities and guidance for young surgeons in the continent of Africa. So thank you very much for everyone. And I'll just share the LinkedIn addresses for our surgeons, and Dr. Ananya has also shared her email, her work email, so you can reach her there as well. Here, so this is the address, and I hope everyone can have access to it.
Please,
So
can I say something before we end this? I'm sorry, I love talking, so.
Yeah, please go ahead.
As I was hearing the discussion, and this is what my personal experience as well. I think as physicians and surgeons, we are so we're confined to a small circle, and I wish we can broaden our horizon. And one of the things that were discussed and one of the questions raised was, how do you deal with the exhaustion? How do you have the drive to wake up every day and do the same thing, face those challenges, right? And I think there's a lot we can learn from people with entrepreneurial background, entrepreneurs, you know. And there is a book that have personally for me changed my attitude towards a lot of things. The 4-Hour Work Week. It's by Timothy Ferriss, and he talks about taking micro retirements. So, and I did that, and Biz knows I did that. So, but when you take micro retirements, which is just taking yourself out of that day-to-day shenanigan and taking a break, just completely, just ignore that you're an orthopedic surgeon or an orthopedic trainee for the weekend. I don't care. If you have a month, fantastic. For a month, just forget it and get in touch with yourself, your human side. That way you can recenter and refocus and reset. So I think that's extremely crucial. And as orthopedic surgeons, I also think mentorship is very important. And as mentors, we have to help our mentees and our trainees to broaden their horizon and think about other things. How are we going to thrive in this current environment of digital advancement? Because things are going to be different. How do we cope up and work out how to be successful in business? Because these are part of orthopedic career. How do we become good researchers? There are just so many things that I think don't take center stage, but should be part of the discussion and mentorship when it comes to the young surgeons, so that they wouldn't have to learn it the hard way like we did, and make them a more well-rounded surgeons by the time they join the working force. Thanks.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Kudos to that. Thank you very much, Ananya. So this webinar has been as intriguing and fun as ever. Thank you for everyone who has participated. We'll have the recording available shortly with a certificate of participation for attendees and panelists as well. Thank you all very much. I hope we'll get to work more with IODA. We'll have different webinars and meetings in the future as well. And everybody is welcome to participate with the diversity and inclusion efforts we do at IODA here. So thank you very much, everyone. We hope to see you again some other time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.